Let's see. The fish in the hangar, will they be more alien in the future?
That's a great question. And we've you don't want to give too much away here, but let's just say before Christmas, you might have an answer to that question.
And it's no, they're not going to be any more fish.
What are you talking about? They're Earth-like planets. Everything's Earth.
Yeah, so keep checking your tanks.
Yeah, keep checking your tanks.
Let's see. How does the modular system work with NPCs, unique and non-static objects?
Well, you can have dynamic objects built into the tier system. In general, for example, I mean, you could go as far as say if you had a tier system that was built around a bar, right? And you could drop that tier into the center of a room, and then it automatically creates a prefab or a template bar. And you could have kind of an NPC built into that. That's maybe the bartender. And then again, the whole beauty of it is jumping into it and then swapping out the different aspects of the tier system because it's made up of multiple prefabs. And then when you swap that stuff out, right, that's where you get your customized feel. So it's not going to be a modular system that everything looks the same.
Right.
It's a modular system that gives you a very quick template to start building everything out and prototyping everything. And then as you look at it, you can see what needs to be changed. And maybe it's a different type of planet, so you plop it down, then you switch out the assets for the appropriate art design that fits that style of planet. So That's kind of the idea.
Yeah, I mean, where's the planet located? Is it close to the Cheyenne? Is it close to Terra? I mean, there's all kinds of things.
What kind of species should your bartender be?
Absolutely,
so
all that
kind
stuff.
of how it ties in.
It needs to be, and we have a lot of places to go. So it's going to be continuing on forever. Hopefully, we'll be adding systems and planets forever. Right.
We've got someone wondering if there will be more things for our NPCs to do in the hangar. Is there going to be living quarters?
NPCs to do in the hangar?
Well, I mean, if we have multiple characters, can somebody be taking a nap while the other one is
shaving his eyebrow?
Yeah.
Do what?
NPC group.
I guess barracks kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I guess that might happen at some point. You don't want to give too much away, but
it's going to be more than just a box to keep our ships in.
Yeah, no, the hangar's meant to be a living quarters, right? It's meant to be your place, your living space, and a lot of until we have persistence, which will allow us to, right now everything's set in a certain location, from posters to buggies to fish tanks to everything else that's in a certain location each hangar. Eventually, we're going to let you customize that and move it around. I believe, is it client-side customizations coming first, Jason, correct?
Probably, yeah.
So at that point, then we've got to have a UI that allows people to move stuff around. And then you'll start seeing a lot more stuff come in, that will allow you. We'll have slots you to basically customize your own hangar. Because ultimately, it needs to feel like your house.
And I don't know, is it safe to say that there's a reason why we put doors in the hangar?
I think that's safe to say.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. So what about graphical improvements? Under the hood, what's going on?
Can we talk about PBR at all?
We just kind of briefly touched upon it. One thing that sorry.
Oh, they're going to have a video for us soon that's going to show.
Yeah, at Inside CIG, Moreland and Forrest, everybody's cut together.
Nathan. We've got a video coming up.
Nathan's doing. Oh man, is it the engine?
No, he's.
We're doing the PBR. Sorry, my bad.
Right. One thing that I see coming up a lot, we are going to do an optimization pass on the hangar, and we are going to go through and do LODs and do a major optimization pass. And a lot of the lighting is kind of temporary at the time, and it will be improved. And really, I think all of those changes will be a part of the porting to the PBR process. So it'll kind of all, I think, happen at once. Instead of being redundant and doing it twice, I think we're trying to all fit it into one schedule. That way we can, do it as efficiently as possible.
It's hard to describe. I mean, the first time I saw the difference in PBR made was in that thruster you were working on, and it's phenomenal, people. It's not just kind of better. Our ships look amazing already. We've got talented modelers, concept people making some amazing stuff. But PBR just takes it to a whole nother level. And wow.
To give it, it's not a PC game, but if anyone's checked out the videos on Rise, Rise is one of the first commercial games using physically based rendering, and that's why the outfits, the metal, the fabrics, they all look much more realistic than they traditionally do in a game. And the advantage of PBR is that
Oh, it's going to be great for everything
What?
in space. And anything on,
Well, yeah, so...
You're the only one they can hear on.
Okay, good. So they can't hear you, Eric, so you can zip it and let me talk. No, the issue with PBR is that it means that your lighting is the same. So like traditionally in different areas, different materials, an artist would do one set of materials, another artist would do a different set of materials, and then if you took a model built by one artist and you put it in a different environment, it would look radically different, and it would, and so you would have to adjust that. PBR basically has it consistent across because it's all reacting physically. So essentially, this metal look that you would get on a ship is consistent across everywhere, which is really important for us because we have so many different environments, so many different lighting conditions. And they react more realistically to the lighting effects. So I think it's a big thing. I mean, the video, we're literally waiting for it to get converted. Can't take MOVs, it can only take MP4s. So right now we're compressing a video that we made with the Avenger that is an upgrade over the Avenger that's sitting in the current hangar with more features, and also converted over to use our early version of PBR. So there you go.
Also related to performance, we're working on some more longer-term kind of architectural changes and rendering and such. For all of our very customizable modular ships, create a lot of draw calls, a lot of state changes. So we're working on some long-term things to efficiently render lots of those. So we'll have a good frame rate with lots of modular customized ships on screen.
And I saw a question go by about the office move. Give us an update on that.
Yeah, actually, the lease is being signed today. I hope it's in Herr Roberts' inbox, so he's got to sign it. And once it's signed, we move in on the 20th.
It's signed, Eric. It's already signed. It was signed yesterday.
There you go. Chris is all way ahead of the game as usual. And 28th of December is what it's looking like.
Awesome. As you can tell, we are pressed for space right now. So.
Yes.
And tell us about the new office.
Well, the folks have seen it. It's a pretty large space. It's going to give us room to set up a small mocap area, to grow the team some, to where we can continue to release things and integrate these bits and pieces that are coming from all over the different studios. So it's in a nice location, just like Santa Monica has a beautiful area. We're getting out of the basement essentially.
So I hear that we good to play the video on the Avenger, which uses sort of the preliminary PBR shading stuff. So I think we'll play that now. This is Nathan Gearsley, who's incredibly talented. He's the guy that actually designed and built the Avenger. He actually works in the UK, so he's part of our sort of UK operation. He did the buggy as well, by the way. So he has a lot of experience with CryEngine as well, because he was at Crytek UK for a long time before he joined us. So he's a talented guy. So I think we're going to queue up the video, play it, and then maybe we can answer some questions afterwards, and then we'll roll on to Sandy's update. Okay, here we go. Can I see what this video looks like? Does that come over to you? I see it. I'm off. Anyway, so what are we at? Are we still? That was the upgraded Avenger using sort of the early version of the PBR. So hopefully you'll like that. I think we'll put that up on our YouTube channel, so it'll be slightly higher res than what we can do in the live stream. But hopefully you guys liked it. I think maybe we could take a couple of questions on any specific PBR stuff, and then we can jump and Sandy can give an update on what we're doing with cons and merchandise and all the rest of the stuff. So Ben, you want to hit a few more PBR related questions? And
I can give it a shot. Everybody is just going crazy about the Avenger right now. I think
I was going crazy. I had to run out and see the video myself.
yeah, we lost Eric and Jason because they went crazy.
like, it's definitely going to be a bounty hunter's ship.
It takes you don't have to redo any of the geometry or any of the model. However, the way you break down your texture sets is entirely different. So that does take a little bit of time.
Does PBR mean a performance hit?
Wow.
Not
no,
generally. No?
Generally, no. Does not.
Not in modern generation graphics cards.
Is it going to increase the time to make a new ship live going forward, or is it just a matter of a different process now?
So I think Chris hit it right on the head in the fashion that I think it'll save us time, because instead of somebody trying to do stuff from scratch all the time, we have a set of material libraries that this is chrome, this is aluminum, and so on and so forth, that people can just pull for it and then kind of define it. So there'll be a lot of materials that are already made that people start at, so it might even save us time.
Yeah, I would just add that, I think we haven't updated the hangar for a little bit right now. One of the reasons is when we shift to PBR, it's a complete shift to PBR, so we have to change everything over because the way you do the materials. So it's another example of a short-term hit for a long-term gain. So, we've made the decision that considering the range and the scope of all the environments, all the lighting conditions, all the different things we've got, PBR, outside of the fact we just think it looks better because, the lighting reaction just looks more like a real material, is it's going to make it much easier for us to balance stuff in the long term. But obviously, we've got to switch all our assets over to it. So I'm not quite sure when we're pulling the trigger because we don't quite have the final PBR implementation, and we have an early work in progress one. We're in the process of integrating the essentially sort of the more recent PBR, which was what Rise shipped with. But with that, we will obviously have to take all our assets in the hangar and all the ships we've done and switch them to PBR materials versus the traditional stuff, which will take a bit of time. But once that's done, down the road, as Farah said, everything's much easier because it's standard. We don't have to worry about tweaking materials for 4 different conditions, and then we build another environment and we put something in it and it looks crap, and so we have to go back and tweak the material again, which is generally the process that's happened with the old material system. So it will be better, and like Farah says, at some point, you've got the chrome, you've got the brushed metal, you've got the leather and all that sort of there, and so we're really excited by it. It's all about making the environments be more immersive and real. Like I said, the Avenger is a nice example of some early stuff, but it's going to look better than that even down the road. So I'm good right now.
Very good stuff. We're going to get that video up for everybody to see for kind of the live stream. So. All right. Well, thank you guys very much for taking some time off.
Cool. Let's get back to work.
Yeah.
Have fun, guys.
Right. So now I think we're going to talk about what we're doing.
Citizen Con?
Is she on?
Yeah,
you got to go this way.
Get back to the lamp.
Do you want to
Remove the lamp?
Yeah.
Oh, let's put the lamp on the other side.
Put them on the other side.
So I researched Citizen Con as Berlin, if you didn't know, was the clear winner. However, for the amount of people that responded to the poll, I had to look for venues that were at least 3,000 or 4,000 people. And for the whole month of October, everything is fully booked for 2014. So we are waitlisted for a couple of venues for 2015. However, 2014 in Berlin is not going to happen. Having said that, we have looked into other events so that we can go around the world, essentially, and every country can kind of get their shot.
Yeah, I think we decided, right, it would be better to pick some key events around. So instead of everyone having to travel to one location, we'll do something in Europe, something in North America, something in
PAX Australia. We are going to do.
There you go, something in Australia. And so that way you can maybe reach the widest range, because Starcitizen's completely, it's amazing. I mean, we're not just North American. We're everywhere, right? So we're global, and so we really want to try to have opportunities to interact directly with everyone around the world. So we thought this was maybe a better way. So we're going to do a dedicated events at various places. I think PAX.
We're doing PAX Australia, which is October 31st to November 2nd. We don't know exactly what we're going to do yet, but we will do an event that does not require a ticket to get into PAX. A lot of people have been asking. I am looking into us putting together a panel for PAX Australia. One of our kind Aussie fans sent me a link, so we're going to look into that. Dragon Con we're going to do again. Ben and Dave Haddock really enjoyed their time this year, so we're going to do that one again. That's August 29 to September 2. We are going to do Gamescom again, which is August 14 to August 17, probably something similar to what we did this year. I'm not sure how many venues there are that are bigger than the one that we had this year. So we'll do our best to accommodate. And then I'm looking into PAX East, and hopefully we get the venue. We're on the wait list, but hopefully I'll know in a few days if we get a venue for PAX East, which is April 11 to 13. What else? That's it, right? North America, Europe, and Australia. So that's the con list, the Citizen Con list. Citizen Con next year will be in Los Angeles, something a little bigger than what we did this year, but I'm not sure how big we can make it. I also looked into Las Vegas. The cost to actually hire a venue in Berlin or in Vegas is stupidly expensive, just for the venue hire.
Like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Like hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Which is probably why, like, if you go BlizzardCon, they charge you, I don't know what it is, $175 a ticket, because they have the same kind of, like,
Well, I went to BlizzCon this year, and they have 30,000 people that go through for $175 a ticket, and it's a whole process in itself. So we would need to hire a whole dedicated team and everything, and it's probably
You've got a game to make.
We do have a game to make, so it's probably not viable for 2014. We have the Starship final, Next Great Starship, which will be on June 8th. And I have to check the capacity for that, but we will probably have fans as winners who can come to the event. I'm not sure how we're going to run that yet. I think the capacity is maybe less than 1,000. So, but that will be in Los Angeles, the Next Great Starship final, which brings me to some stats for the Next Great Starship final. We have a total of 111 teams who have entered right now. 26 teams from the US, 8 teams from the UK, 5 teams from Germany, 4 teams from Australia, 4 teams from Canada, 2 from Spain, 2 from Switzerland, 2 from Austria, 1 from Norway, 1 from the Netherlands, 1 from New Zealand, 1 from Argentina, 1 from Russia, 1 from China, woohoo, 1 from Italy, 1 from Greece, and 1 from Russia.
Okay, so 2 from Russia.
2 from Russia, yeah. Okay. And then we've got people who've entered, they work in the industry.
And you've got 49 unspecified country teams.
Oh, yes, we do.
So.
Thank you for reading my sheet of
well,
paper.
no, I'm just saying, because everyone will probably add all that up and go, well, that's not 111 people.
Yeah, all right. People who've worked in the industry. So we've got people from all sorts of backgrounds, including Disney and Paradigm and Ubisoft and all sorts. People who work at Walmart. Cool. Teams consisting of best friends and fathers. That'd be interesting. We actually have quite a few teenagers who've entered. 3D artists. who work for the nation's defense building simulations. That's cool. Active duty Army men, heads of IT departments, self-taught 3D modelers, design companies, hobbyists, enthusiasts, amateurs, and freelancers. So it should be a pretty cool competition. We have, of course, our very own Chris Roberts judging.
We do. And we have our Austin art team who right now are all actually, since in America it's Thanksgiving this week, so a lot of people take off a day or two early because we take Thursday, which is Thanksgiving, is obviously a holiday, and then Friday's a holiday, so it's a long weekend, and people take off. So actually Mark Skelton, who's our Austin art director, is off today, and I think Chris Olivier worked late last night, but they both will be on the judging panel, and Chris Smith, who's our lead vehicle modeler, who's done an amazing job. I mean, the Hornet rebuild and design and all that sort of stuff was all his. The 300i was what he modeled. He's also off for this week for his sort of long extended Thanksgiving holiday for all the hard work he's been doing, cranking out stuff for the hangar and the game. So, but they'll all be part of the panel, and then we'll get some other sort of industry people in, or celebrities to judge, and it should be fun. And we're going to try and make it fun, and
Every Friday.
Every Friday, yeah, should be good.
And then what else we got going? Mouse pads arrived. Just in case you're wondering what this is, I saw somebody thought it was a big magazine. It is actually a massive mouse pad.
Can we see all
Look at that.
And I think we currently. Oh, look at that! Oh, I can see. There you are, sitting on it.
Mouse pads, polo shirts are ready to ship, so they will start shipping on Thanksgiving Day to everybody who ordered a polo shirt. My hoodie samples just arrived, for those of you who saw this earlier. So we're just going through quality on these.
No, it's not weird.
Well, it's a bit small for you, Chris. But
Is this the baby one? Yeah, we can see it.
that's a medium.
Medium. Go.
Yeah, it's slightly short in the arms, but that is a medium.
So let's see.
For all of you who
We
live
got
in cold
Trig.
climates other than Australia.
Drake Interplanetary right here. There you go. And redacted on the back. And we may do some of the swords on the side of the skull and crossbones. So good for everyone in cold, rainy Europe at the moment.
Yeah. That, Canada, everybody probably except Australia and maybe
Okay.
some. Thank you. What else? Somebody asked about T-shirts. We will have another design out for that. We're probably the three new mousepad artworks are ready.
Yes, we have what we have.
The Aegis, the Misk, and the
Aegis, Misk, and where are we at?
Origin?
No, Origin.
No,
we already have
Origin
Origin,
we have.
Anvil, and RSI. So Aegis, Misk, and there's a third one that I don't know why I'm blanking on.
Drake?
Drake.
Drake, yay! All
Yes,
right.
as in the thing. Yes, correct.
So they're ready, and I think the subscribers voted for the Aegis one first. So
Okay.
that's going to be exclusive to them first, and then what's left will go to other peeps.
Cool.
A few more patches are coming. What else we got? Oh, coffee mugs. I just saw them, samples of them, which are pretty cool. So we'll get them to the office, and then we'll try them out here and see if everybody likes them and they wash well and stuff. So that's about it from me, I think.
Okay, any questions for Sandy? Should we get a few?
Yeah, anybody out there have a question for Steve?
Andy, just let me know in the chat roll. Somebody asking about polo shirts. They're shipping starting Thanksgiving Day. Now, someone's wondering about a Starcitizen joystick. Is that something we might be looking into in the future?
I have been talking to SciTech, and I think we want to put out a poll to see what people think, what they would like to use, and if they like that brand, and then we can go from there.
Yeah, SciTech are pretty keen to do a dedicated Starcitizen joystick. We talked about some things we would like. So to be able to have the ability to sort of look around in an analog way as well as using a joystick. We have a whole bunch of nice SciTech stuff they sent us. I mean, everyone's been great. Razer, SciTech, all the Logitech, all the peripheral. folks. But yeah, it'd be fun to do a specific Star Citizen joystick. So yeah, I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on that.
The chat right now, they're very excited. There's
So chat room right now.
Then be sure to vote in the poll. And then we'll know how much interest is out there so that we can create something specific for everybody.
We've got folks wondering about dog tags, citizen cards, and slippers.
Had not thought about slippers, but I can look into it. What else? Dog tags. Yeah, I'm sampling those. I'm just a bit concerned about the ones I've received, when they get wet, how they work on the skin. I don't want stuff that affects your skin badly. So that's being worked on. What else? What did you say? Dog tags, citizen cards.
about more citizen cards.
The replacement run is taking a lot longer than we expected because it's really difficult to program through the site because each card is custom. So we hope to send out those forms in the first week of December. But please do not hit up customer service in the meantime because we're swamped right now. So.
All right, any other questions for Sandy, guys? They're shouting out suggestions for products. They want stickers, backpacks, 3D ships, towels, bathrobes, fish, bumper stickers.
Your own mutant Star Citizen fish.
Okay, well, I think we're actually on our schedule now. We're going to do the HUD stuff, right? Is that the plan?
Yeah,
that is the plan. Okay, so we're going to show you. This is a sort of behind-the-scenes video we put together talking about our HUD workflow. So I think you guys will enjoy it, and then we'll have, I think, Zane who's now back in Austin, but he's coming back out here to LA, and then Brandon will be here, and I'll be here, and we can talk about some of the stuff that you've seen in this video that we're going to roll right now. So enjoy the video, and see you in a few minutes.
Hey everybody, I'm here with Johnny Likens, our UI designer. Johnny, would you like to introduce yourself to everybody?
I'm John Likens. I'm a UI designer, and I've been brought onto the project to head up all the design and UI elements inside the ships that you'll be interacting with when you're playing the game.
Can you tell us how you came to Cloud Imperium Games?
So my background is in film and television, and I got a call from Travis, who was referred to me from my work on Iron Man 3, where I did a bunch of the HUD design and UI work in that film. And it was at that point he explained to me what Star Citizen is all about and how the work that I was doing in the film world, could directly be applied to what's happening in the game world.
So you work with Zane and a bunch of the other guys in the office. What is the workflow that you work on for the HUD specifically?
So when I start a project like this, I think it's really important to become quite familiar with whatever it is that you're designing the interface graphics for. For example, the Hornet, I'm creating the HUD and all the interface sort of design elements for it, and I believe that, it should be cohesive and feel like it's part of the same system. The design aesthetic of the ship should be reflected in the UI. I started out by just sort of flying around the ship, getting a sense for some of the design work and the line work that's already been built into the ship. Just taking notes from some of the forms and shapes that have already been created for this particular asset. From there, I'll just do a lot of sketches, and I'll be very loose and very fast-paced with sort of getting a lot of ideas out on paper, and then I'll just loosely either scan in those sketches from the book, or I'll just come in here and draw freehand on top of the plate and vectorize it and make everything clean and nice, and work with a grid and do all my typeface exploration in Illustrator and solidify all those ideas that were executed in the sketching process. it's different just because in film, you know, all the UI and stuff, it's all just fake, and we get to sort of, you know, make it up as you go. But in the game environment, all these things have to have a purpose, and they have to have meaning, and they have to sort of, you know, function as an aid to the player. So I worked on the design for about a week and a half, and then worked on the animation for a few days, and that's kind of brought us to where we're at. But there's also been a lot that's kind of gone into it just to get to this point. For example, if you see this reticle, it's an actual 3D object. And so taking that vector design that you saw over here, knowing that we wanted to fly in and be three-dimensional and then eventually end up looking like this, taking that design that I created, that 2D vector art in Illustrator, I can then bring it into Cinema 4D and extrude all the pieces and place them in their own depth and animate them accordingly, and then I'll be able to export that out for the developers to work it into the game.
So what Johnny's focus is in this whole workflow is to come up with a high-level visual concept of the HUD, which includes the animation of the boot up sequence and also sort of like the damage states and how that sort of animates. And what my focus is in this workflow is to take that and then animate it so that it gets translated into an in-game asset, which I can then hand over to Brandon.
Zane hands that flash file off to me, and I plug it into the engine and make sure that the C++ code is interfacing with it properly.
So the cool thing about how we're developing this game is that we're releasing it piece by piece. And so for this first dogfighting module, the work that we're doing on this HUD, we'll be able to put it out there to the players and get feedback on that. What things could be improved, what sections of the HUD are readable or not readable, and then we'll be able to fold that feedback into future iterations of the HUD on different ships and even the Anvil HUD.
In Starcitizen, there's not a lot of abstraction in how the ships function. Everything is a real part that actually exists in the system, and all of those parts need to actually communicate with each other. So I've been doing a lot of work to make sure that there's interconnectivity between all of the various ship systems, and making sure that those have a way to communicate with all of the various output devices like the player's HUD.
So our goal is to create a really cool HUD, a really immersive experience. And one of the ways that we're doing this is to actually diversify the visual style of HUD by ship manufacturer. So right now we're sort of initially concepting the visual look and feel and design language for the Hornet, or Anvil Aerospace rather. So you'll see the same style in the Hornet and Gladiator, but later on when we actually get this workflow going and we start fleshing out more HUD designs, they're actually going to be way different. So in a trading ship like the Musashi ships, you're going to be able to expect a whole different experience because the visuals language will be different.
Well, there's a lot of systems that are going to be brought into Starcitizen, and you're going to need an interface into all of those. So we're thinking about things like navigation, star maps, things like that, possibly trade interfaces. All of that is going to be done in-world. There won't be any sort of game abstract UI. So there's a lot of stuff to look forward to doing going forward.
One thing what we're doing is we're defining different color spaces that'll be applied to different things. For example, customizability of these different color spaces. So a user can take the red color space or the critical alert color space and assign a different RGB value or color to that so that it's more readable to them.
Coming from, you know, my background, not really being much of a gamer or anything, I sort of offer a fresh perspective and maybe like a new set of eyes, and I would maybe approach problems and tasks in a different way than regular designers in the game industry would, because they sort of know the limitations and they know sort of the boundaries of, you know, where they need to be working in. But for me, I don't really know anything about that, so I'm just kind of, you know, doing my thing, and then we'll work to incorporate it into a, you know, a usable state for gameplay.
Just finishing the lovely pizza that was sent to us.
By Thomas Block.
Yeah.
There you go. So, come in. So I hope you guys like that. So I have Brandon here with me, who is doing the programming side. Zane is in Austin, who will be back out here
to work, and then
Johnny is with us right now because he went back for Thanksgiving. He actually lives in New York, and he's been coming out here and working at our offices here. But yeah, would love to answer questions. I mean, we're pretty excited. I mean, this is just showing you the tip of the iceberg of what we're going to do with the displays and the HUD stuff. But the whole goal with the game is to make everything in the game completely immersive in context of the world, right? So there's no like kind of abstract game UI at all. And when you sit in a cockpit, you get a HUD that you would expect in that cockpit. If you're running around on first person and you grab a pistol but you don't have a combat outfit on, you have no HUD. If you put a Marine combat outfit in, then a HUD would show up. And yeah, we just want to make it sort of feel like you see in a badass sci-fi movie. Cool. And I think, Zane and Brandon and Johnny have been doing some really pretty exceptional work. And you can't even appreciate how immersive that will be when it's actually in proper stereoscopic 3D. You've got either a 3D monitor or you've got a Rift or something, because then all this stuff will be floating in front of your eyes. But it'll be pretty cool. So I guess let's hear some questions. So.
All right, our first question is about alien ships. How different will the HUD be?
So, I mean, the whole idea is that you would diversify the visual language of the ship by each manufacturer. So alien ships might have sort of this design language that's radically different than you would have in the human ships. So maybe more along the lines of like different shapes, maybe a different overall color theme to it. We just have to think about that and think of the design language when we start to work on it. So.
Yeah, and I also think that we're sort of designing the system to be
fairly dynamic and modular. So like the Hornet, you see but that's a military dogfighting craft. So there's probably a lot more information on the HUD there than maybe if you're flying the Freelancer or the Constellation, where it would be more minimalized, although you could bring up the information. It's just all about when you're in sort of the combat situation. In the Hornet, you're going to want to know the heat of every one of your weapons and all that sort of stuff. And so the Hornet HUD would be like an example of a HUD that would be sort of more information heavy, and there'll be some that would be less information heavy. That the system we're designing is meant to be kind of pretty modular as far as that goes.
People are asking, is it going to be customizable by the user or just by our end?
So I think at least one of the things we can do is obviously the color customizability, because that's actually pretty easy. We have different groups of information on the HUD that we different color spaces. So generally, the overall color of the HUD is pretty uniform, and that we use color to actually differentiate important elements on the HUD. So things that are important will actually stand out to you. So like the red critical alerts will be red because that's something that needs your immediate attention right away. It's critical. It's like really important. So you'll be able to customize that. Some other interaction you can do with the HUD is also minimizing different sections to just so it clears out sort of the space that you can see around you, sort of like the environment. So if you want to kind of minimize one part of the HUD, you can like cycle through it and you can minimize it, kind of like taskbar minimization, but you'll still kind of see a little bit there, especially if it contains some information. So.
Are we going to see this sort of HUD in the first-person mode or just in the ships?
We do plan on having some sort of HUD in first person. I think Johnny is actually going out to, or we want Johnny to work with our first person
folks that we haven't announced yet.
We announced them?
We're going to have, like I said, there's a first person HUD, but it's only if you're wearing like a a suit that would have like a HUD, so augmented reality. You also have what we call Glass, which is sort of, the futuristic version of, I don't know, a PDA / augmented reality device. And so those are all things that we're prototyping that would all sort of work together. But they're all sort of work in context. So like the Glass is, I think we're thinking it's mounted on your arm and you pull it up and then it projects in front of you and you sort of, it outlines and projects stuff to kind of tag or show stuff. And if you had like a combat helmet on, you'd get a HUD there. And actually, in fact, in the third-person view, if you're looking back at you in the pilot, say in the ship, you can actually see some of the display stuff from the HUD, which is akin to sort of those third-person views you saw in, say, Iron Man. When you would look back on Robert Downey Jr., you could see, all the HUD being sort of on the front of his face.
What have you thought about how the HUD is going to look in the Oculus Rift? Question for us.
Yeah, I mean,
I was mentioning the whole stereoscopic 3D side. So we're deliberately setting up all the HUD stuff to have like Z distance, and it actually will be much more immersive in something like Oculus Rift than it would be just on a flat 2D screen, because you really feel the depth. You'll feel like these things floating in front of your eyes before the cockpit glass and stuff.
It's going to be really cool when the HUD actually has a little bit of parallax and delay to it. So when you move your head around, you'll actually, because these user interfaces are projected diegetically in the game, it's sort of separate. It's on a separate bone. So we will kind of try to have some parallax in it, so it just adds to that kind of immersion of you visualizing that interface.
Asmus asks, will we be able to move the location of where elements are displayed on the HUD?
Well, you'll be able to minimize certain things on the HUD, but I don't think we've really looked into like actually moving the different placements of the HUD. That's actually pretty difficult, because when we design the interface, it's like things have to, especially with the visual language, things have to kind of fit in place. So yeah. I don't really.
Code side, we do it, right?
Yeah. The code side is not the issue. It's really just like what Zane's talking about, which is the design side. Is how we're approaching the HUD. Is it like a desktop that you have on a computer where you can move things around, or is it like something that's more, set, and so your speed is on the left, but your shields are on the right always. So and that potentially also could be specific to the manufacturer of the ship as well. So I think the code system supports it. It's just really more a design UI side issue.
A couple users asking if you're using Scaleform as the base.
Yeah. Brandon?
Yeah, I'm using Scaleform, which for people who don't know is a way to design your interfaces in Flash and then bring those into the game and either project them onto surfaces or display them in screen space. So we're actually using both of those aspects. So we have in-cockpit displays, which are flat screens, which you can move in and out, and you can choose what's displayed on them. And we also have the pilot visor, which is a partly a 3D object with a Scaleform UI projected on it, and partly a screen space Scaleform UI.
Yeah, and then we're also, it's not, so Scaleform's part of it, but we're also having actual 3D objects that are rendered with, we're actually developing the shader for them right now, so, but you can see the early versions of it in the hangar with the holo display. So like the ship spinning with the weapons and all that's not Scaleform at all. That's actually the geometry being rendered. So we're using a combination of Scaleform to do sort of the more sort of 2D elements, the font and the text and stuff, and then the actual engine to render 3D wireframe objects. So the ship, like for instance, selecting your weapons, that will all be done in the HUD or even on the displays using the actual geometry. Probably the same for damage displays and stuff like that, mainly because we've got so many ships out there and we're building all the geometry. you don't really want to also have to build a whole separate set of 2D sprites to represent something you've already got in 3D. So we sort of use the geometry engine as well as Scaleform together in concert to create the effect that we have.
We've got someone asking if the HUD that's tracking a ship will show like an arrow when the ship goes off screen for you to track it.
Yeah, that's something that we do already.
Very cool. A lot of people wondering if the alien HUDs will be in alien languages. If you thought about that yet?
Yeah, I'm not sure. You haven't really got to that point, but I mean, it'd be cool.
Yeah, alien.
I would say that I would say like flying a Vandal ship. Yeah, you're gonna have, I mean, we're actually one thing we're doing right now on the art side is we have some of our graphic artists are actually tasked with developing the look of the alien languages. So I would say the alien ships, unless they were sold, like built or repurposed for human resale, would defaultly display in an alien language. So like if you've got the Dralthi, I mean not the Dralthis, Wing Commander slip there, the Sky. You have the Sky. It would basically it'll be all in Vandal script. Wouldn't necessarily be in alphanumeric or anything we've got.
We're wondering if we will see the same HUD in the Starcitizen app that's been talked about. Wondering if people will be treating their like phone, tablet app as part of their ship and will have the same HUD interface.
So you're talking about second screen display, right? I mean, it's not so much the HUD. It's like, okay, I can see my weapons display or my ship status display in my iPad because it's talking to my computer. I mean, I would assume that, I mean, we haven't really sort of done a lot of work on that aspect of it. That's something we're going to do research towards, but I would assume we would obviously follow the same, like, aesthetic. I mean, there's no reason why we would have a different look for that than you would have on your displays in the game.
Yeah, I mean, a different section, we have different sort of categories of information that's actually displayed in the HUD in the Hornet. So such as like there's a whole window on like weapon systems, and then your own ship stats, and also like information on your target. So you could kind of like take one of those information windows, and then maybe one idea is to actually pass that off to whatever peripheral screen that you have on the side, and have that display along with any other information you have on your HUD. So maybe it's just kind of like something where it just displays extra information to you at the same time, because there's so little screen space to work with already as is.
We've got users wondering if different positions in the same ship will have different HUDs. So if I'm a turret gunner or navigator or something like that, I get a different display than the pilot.
Yeah, you should. There are definitely elements of certain seats that other seats don't need. If you're not in like a pilot seat, you don't need a fixed forward reticle. If you're not on a seat that can control weapons, you don't need any sort of targeting HUD. Radar operators might not need the general ship stats. So yeah, there's a lot of different things that different seats may or may not need.
Yeah, and the seats themselves dictate what elements of the HUD they would need. So
I'm coding that up right now.
There you are, from the horse's mouth.
Wondering about voice commands. Will there be any voice control here?
We haven't actually done any work on that.
Although we're not necessarily against it. I mean, there's so I mean, there's the next generation Kinect is going to be released for the PC next year. We'll probably take a look at some of the voice recognition there. We'll look at some of the voice recognition on other stuff, and if it makes sense, we're definitely going to use it. I think generally in some cases it is actually kind of useful. So we're interested in it, but we're not committing to it just yet. But we'll definitely we'll play around with it, do R&D, and if we feel like it makes the game better, we'll use it.
Some questions about the Moby glass. Does everyone always have a Moby glass? Do you have to be wearing it at a particular time? How does that fit into our world?
Well, I think the Moby glass is like the modern day equivalent, or the futuristic equivalent of having your iPhone or whatever with you. So generally, you would probably have it with you. Maybe you're wearing it like I've got a watch on right now, that kind of setup. think that's sort of what we're picturing. So most of the time you're wearing it. So I guess if you're wandering around naked, you wouldn't have it, but there's probably not really going to be any occasion that'll be happening in the game. So by default, most of the time you would have your mobiGARs, unless we could think of some good reason to take it away for you for whatever reason.
Delta Mike would like to ask if ships will have a logbook.
A logbook.
Like a logbook as in like landed on this planet, took off, took on so many goods, sold this, that kind of stuff?
Yeah, I think that sort of thing.
It's not in the design currently, so it's not necessarily something that's particularly hard. It's really just a matter of like, I think that falls in the case of a feature that like down the road we may implement, but it's not top of the priority of what we want to implement right now.
For multi-monitors, will people be able to customize their HUD, kick some of the data out to their monitors on the side, that sort of thing? That fall into the same as the second.
We've actually already been doing some coding to handle multiple monitors, right? So
yeah, the HUD is split up into a number of parts so that we can stretch it out to make sure it fits on whatever aspect ratio you might have, and that'll definitely give you some extra screen real estate to show a little more information.
Yeah, so I mean, not so much of like saying this part's on this monitor and this part's on this monitor, for the reasons that Zane talked about, but definitely it will handle things like Eyefinity or wider displays. So it sort of dynamically adjusts to your aspect ratio or a larger screen area or a larger field of view.
Can your HUD suffer
damage during combat?
Yeah, actually, there was a little clip of some of the damage state in that we've designed in the video that preceded this. There'll definitely be damage reflected in the HUD. The HUD may reflect damaged individual components as well.
Right, and then and since we have all these systems that interact with each other, if a system goes down, it won't be feeding the display on the HUD, and the HUD just won't be connected or seeing the weapons or whatever.
You'll lose elements of your HUD because all the systems are real and can take damage. You might lose your radar or your targeting computer.
Right, and they're all dynamic. They all talk to each other via an event system. So yeah, there's nothing. It's basically a messaging system inside the ship that talks, and so the items talk to the displays and tell them information. And if the item goes away, then they won't be getting information to display. That'll go away. So we kind of coded a whole system for the displays and the ship systems that way to make it. To like, hopefully it will feel like a real living, breathing vehicle. And when things go down, they go down on your display. We don't have to really do any special coding. It falls out of the system. Right.
Can users turn off their HUDs, like in the end of Star Wars?
That should probably be something they can do.
Yeah. I mean, I have no problem. You definitely will be able to minimize stuff, but yeah, I guess if you want to, turn it off and use the Force, go ahead.
Take some pretty screenshots.
Be really good, though. Some confusion over what the HUD actually is. Is it projected on your helmet? Is it in the glass cockpit? What do you actually have to be wearing to see your HUD in your ship?
So
the HUD specifically in the Hornet, because it will vary on ships, is a combination. So some of it is projected on your visor. Some of it will be projected in the space of your cockpit in front of you. So basically anything that would be specific to the orientation of your ship itself would probably be projected into the cockpit space, and stuff that's information that you would do. So like targeting information or whatever, looking around will probably be on your visor, but we don't have it working here. But in the prototype I had, like there was a pretty standard sort of play, like a horizon line setup. And that was actually projected in sort of the front projecting, which you can already see in the Hornet right now. You can see these sort of little devices to project, and I think right now there's sort of a translucent kind of plane sitting in front of you, and that's really where the spatial projection would be for the stuff that was fixed to the Hornet. And it would be a combination depending on what makes sense. It's kind of confusing if you have like a horizon line or a heading thing that like it needs to stay with the orientation of the ship, not with which way you're looking. But some stuff would naturally go with where you were looking, like targeting reticles or information for that. So the answer is a combination.
Okay. Guys, got some more HUD questions for us? Zane and Chris and Brennan? Wondering if we can talk about the command module on some of the larger ships. Will that be the same sort of HUD interface, or will that be something else?
Well, the same system.
Drive it. I'm not sure it's going to look necessarily the same. I mean, there's a differentiation between like the display and the input to the actions, but the way we're designing the system is that the HUD system itself is meant to be pretty modular. So you know, we could have a specific look and functionality that you see in the Hornet that would be very different than what you'd see, say, in the Constellation or what you could see in the Idris Corvette, although they'll be all using the same basic system. That's why we have the ability to drive this feature. In this seat, you're only doing weapons control. In this seat, you're flying it or whatever. You know, we probably would, like, you know, in the bigger ship, the command and control, you would have some of the stuff you see now, but you'd also have like a big sort of floating, you know, hologram of like you could see situational sort of setup of all the different ships in the theater of operation that you're in, and maybe you can click on it and sort of say, okay, and direct this ship to attack that ship, and so it's sort of like a big holosphere. So not too dissimilar than what you would, you know, you've seen in, haven't seen Ender's Game, but I bet you they have something like that in Ender's Game. Prometheus has something pretty similar to it, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine the
Interfaces would be sort of specialized based on kind of what function you're actually doing in the ship. Like if you're a weapons commander, you know, whatever function you're doing, you have a specialized interface for that with the manufacturer language, visual language applied to it.
I'm wondering if space weather, you know, electromagnetic interference, nebula, that sort of thing will affect the HUD. Are we going to brown out, be disabled by certain types of space?
That's a good question. That's a cool idea to fill around with.
Yes, the answer is yes. It's part of the design. So the display will get affected, could get interference, could go off altogether. Depends on where you are, what the environment would be. So there may be some nebulas you go into that you basically are running blind, essentially.